to ToLife. This is the new name, the new brand for the health and wellness TV talk show series. With us is Toronto-based Larry Linton
Good morning. Hi.
and Northern California-based Dave Cohen, who happens to double as my brother, and we're expecting a few others. Uh, Dave, I think you recalled Larry has been playing drums and running in marathons or half marathons.
Yeah.
Marathons, I guess, too, right?
No, just half.
Oh,
Just
half. Yeah, that was good enough. That's
yeah, that's right.
half more than I've ever done.
Ah,
You get that
and last year I completed 7,000 kilometers on my bike in a year. So
Right.
that
Out on the streets or sitting stationary?
this is just on my trainer. This is just on my
Uh-huh.
bike trainer, which
Yeah.
I rigged up to my bike in the winter, and then obviously on the road when I was riding physically, it's a bike computer. But never thought I would ever get to 7,000 kilometers. But I'm sure that exercise has been the biggest plus
Excuse
in
me.
my journey so far in dealing with the
Yeah.
symptoms.
Dave, how you doing? Are you into any physical routines?
No, I'm not because I have some joint issues that
Uh,
I'm also dealing with.
Right.
So while I can walk and I'm stable, uh,
Yes.
that's about as far as I can go.
Right.
I have bad shoulders from too much golf at a younger age.
Right. Right.
And so I'm limited in that activity. I have artificial knees.
Right.
Other than that, I'm just a collection of titanium parts.
Right. Right.
that's funny. That's funny.
Well, at least your knees won't wear out again, which is good. But my recommendation is always to move as much as you can, even within limitations. Because I think just sitting, this disease kind of takes hold of you, and
Yes.
we've got to push back as much as we can, as you know.
Well, yeah, I do what I can, but mostly my most important thing is the mental acuity.
Right, right,
And the fact that I can sit or sleep without problem
right.
is good.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. By any chance, Larry, have you heard from Mark Colo today in an email
Not,
or?
not today. I haven't. No,
Yeah, okay, good.
no, I haven't. Um, I can try and send him a text and see.
Yeah, see if he's going to join us. Or maybe it's just a bad hour for him.
Yeah,
I know sometime in the morning he is
yeah.
trying to shake off the medicines.
Yeah, it's always an issue, everything's got to be timed around medication, diet, eating, exercise. It's never a dull moment, and not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm having a problem out there. My emails are not working. My
Right,
phone is working, but the emails are not, and I cannot, for some reason, make this thing go to LinkedIn,
and
Well,
maybe
in my apps. So I don't know what I'm going to do. We'll just carry on. So how's Pat doing, Dave?
she's doing fine.
That's good.
We're just a couple of older, senior citizens, and
Yeah. So you had recent meetings with Lisa?
yeah, Lisa, our niece, was passing through Northern California back over back around Christmas time. And we went to a restaurant in landlocked Walnut Creek, California called the Walnut Creek Yacht Club.
Yeah, I didn't know there was such a place. Well,
Well, it's a restaurant. It's not a yacht club. But it was very good. It was good to spend a couple of hours with her and catch
yeah, that's good.
on what's going on, and She's my link to the educated in the family, the PhD in art history, and been a professor at Bryn Mawr for 25 years or so.
Yeah, she got undergrad at Radcliffe, wasn't it?
Did undergrad at Princeton,
Oh, Princeton.
and
Okay.
then she did the Harvard routine.
Yeah. Well, that's good that somebody has brains. Yeah.
Wasn't wasn't me.
Yeah. So, I very much missed the group in Hyannis. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, but wasn't a good time for us to travel.
No, it was a good visit, and it's a tough trip to go to the East Coast.
It is, and not just long, but sort of like time zone and
Well,
everything.
it was a long it's a 6 hour flight.
Yeah,
First, I mean, I can go to Hawaii quicker than I can get to Boston,
yeah.
and plus the sun didn't shine for 3 days when we were there in August.
That's a bummer.
And arrive in Boston and got a 2 hour drive to Hyannis.
Right.
And next, if we do it again, we'll do it and we'll fly into Hyannis, meaning stop somewhere. But
Yeah.
I'm
I
sure.
I I get it. Yeah. Yeah, I was looking forward to that, and um, it just couldn't jive well here in the household. So,
Well, it was good to see Nancy and Selig and Robert and Joy. I mean, I haven't seen Joy in probably 20 years,
yeah,
and she hasn't changed any.
I was going to say that. So when you were employed by P, PG and E, um, and there were fires back
Yeah.
then because of windstorms, right? That knocked
Well,
down wires.
storms, and you got to understand that until very recently, the high tension lines that we see overhead on big towers, those are unshielded. So I mean, it's an open, exposed wire, and if it comes in contact with something that doesn't react well to open, exposed wires, it's not going to react well.
Yeah, right.
And you also have stuff that you have a system that was built over 150 years, and so something that was a cable that was installed on a tower in 1906 at some point is going to fail,
Mm,
and it failed.
mm,
Now,
So the fact that they put those exposed wires and connections in the backcountry, I guess there's no other way of doing it.
well, there's you can bury the cables, but burying the cables is an 11 times the cost
Uh,
installation. And I mean, you take a look at what you pay now for electricity, and you say, can I handle an increase of X%? Because that's the reality. At some point, you got to decide who's going to pay for it.
mm,
And the people of California, uh, through their regulatory agencies, decided that they were going to pay for it. They didn't really decide; it was decided for them. So, uh, we have very expensive electricity up here, but it's also been far more dependable. And the other thing that they've done to slow down or stop wildfires is they've employed a series of construction fixes throughout the grid so that they can literally cut off parts of the system.
Hmm.
with a switch remotely. Basically sit at a computer not far from here because they control us from the PG&E network is controlled about from a place about 5 miles from here. And but they can you could turn off a light in Tahoe, and turn it on.
That's amazing.
Well, it's very similar to what the phone company does. The phone company has automated checking systems to check their system, and they do it at 3 a.m. So at 3 a.m. your time, your phone lights up, whether or not you hear it. And they basically make sure that there's a connection and there's dial tone, and then they get rid of it. And in case of AT&T, for example, they do that from Dallas. So there's some guy in Dallas who's watching a system at 3 o'clock in the morning who's checking 92 million phone lines to make sure that they work. So it's very much an inside baseball maneuver, but it's how they maintain the integrity of the network. Because when the if one hole develops, then a lot of holes develop. Much like
Interesting stuff.
uh,
Yeah. Larry, what are you doing in work these days?
I'm still running an immigration practice with a small boutique firm. Um, but I've set 2025 as sort of my transition year to try and transition from law to consulting and coaching. Because I've got my coaching website up, and I'm sort of I have had a couple of clients that I've put through my coaching system, and it seems to resonate with them. So I'm trying to basically replace my income stream with my coaching and then wind down the immigration practice. But at the moment, I'm finding it hard, to be honest, because it's a 9 to 5 sort of job that I'm still doing. And so the weekends I devote to the coaching, but I'm finding that it's not good use of time because it's the weekend. I'm trying to relax and get away from doing any kind of work. So I'm at a crossroads. I'm looking to transition, but I do know it's hard work to do that.
And the coaching is about not your law practice, but about
No,
your physical.
yeah, it's about living well with Parkinson's, and more specifically assisting those that are going through disclosure decisions in the workplace, and the impact of disclosure, how to disclose, how to manage this disclosure, and then the minefield of disability claims. Because through my personal experience, I had to go through all of that. And I've learned some tricks of the trade that I want to share with people that are going through it. So it's coaching on living well, but more specifically professionals that basically me 13 years ago, essentially, who are going through the process of disclosure and disability claims.
Well, that's really a wonderful thing that you're doing.
I hope so. I think I'm very concerned about the way I was treated when I went through the whole process. I think the insurance industry is always set up to deny, and defer and delay. Um, we are those of us with Parkinson's. It's a chronic progressive illness, and that should be enough, to qualify. But the comeback is always, well, you don't look sick. You don't look, how can you be totally disabled if you've got Parkinson's when you're at gym, working out, looking good? Um, you know, you seem to be fine. And that's the biggest dilemma that I face, and did face, and want to help people and educate have the opportunity to educate employers and insurance industries that, hey, we are sick and we shouldn't be battling to qualify for disability.
Isn't that
I've
interesting? What is your website?
been any of
Tell
this.
the audience.
My website is livewellwithpd.com.
Say that one more
PD,
time, okay?
livewellwithpd.com.
Got it. Yes, Dave.
Well, I've not run into any issues with getting benefits, but I'm sure that at some point that's coming.
Right, right. It's a nightmare when you get into it. I had to take on both my employer and some of the top insurance companies because they made mistakes. And if they and I was the HR partner at the firm I was with. So when they make a mistake, which I realized, I found the mistake and contested the mistake and won on their mistake. If that's what I found, I'd hate to see how others are being treated in the
What are
work.
what are some of the things that have raised flags in the insurance company's eyes that have impacted you?
Well, the one is that I was withdrawn from a partnership, but and given a period of time of my notice. But on the day they decided or told me the decision, they took away my benefits,
Hmm.
Oh,
which you can't do. You know, legally, you're entitled to have the benefits accrue throughout the working notice period. So that itself took about 18 months of failed negotiation and litigation to the point that when I was in my mediation meeting, the insurance company turned around and said, gee, I wish somebody would have brought this file to me earlier because that was a mistake. Um, and um, and the other misconception is the the disclosure. I call it the disclosure dilemma because we've got protection in our legislation against discrimination and accommodation and all of that, but there's no I'm sure that in my case, once you disclose an impact, the impact is there no matter what protection there is to your job. I know that I was looked at differently. I know
Mhm.
I was assessed differently, and that is also what I think the biggest issue is. People are concerned that if they don't disclose, um, they could be fired. But when you do disclose, you get stigmatization. So it's a real minefield of how to cope and how to ensure that you are not affected negatively. That's
So
really
how do you deal with that? For example, when it comes to employment or an employment application, say, and in the U.S., you will have to somewhat disclose
right.
if you have a disability or not.
Yes, no, I think there's got to be full disclosure, but I think you can disclose at your optimum time. In other words, people say to me, well, when should I disclose? Well, you don't disclose the day you were diagnosed. That's the first thing because you flooded with everything else. But you disclose in a at the time that you are feeling your best. So in my case, it's in the early morning. So literally, you structure the meeting and you practice to meet with HR at your best time. And I have coached other people into, in writing the script, literally saying what you need to say and stopping it at asking for accommodation and not taking it further. But but the biggest issue is with the insurance industry, the whole legalese between your own occupation and any occupation. So what I'm doing really is quarterbacking and assisting and ideally working with somebody who may or may not be litigating, but just needs to understand what all of these terms are and don't want to be charged every time they pick up the phone to their lawyers, because what I can offer is a sort of a unique blend between law and my own personal experience to assist.
Well, the thing that strikes me is here, if you work, if you or your spouse work for somebody, for a company that has some heft to it, a couple of
Yes,
hundred employees, is yourself, the company is self-insured. So
right,
they may have a carrier, a Blue Cross type company
right,
that administers the plan, but
right.
it's really up to your employer as to whether or not they pay it.
Yes, that's right. But whatever it is, you're up against them. You're up against them both. I mean, the private insurance companies or are not your friends. They're your friends to a certain extent, but as soon as there's an issue, I think they take the high road and deny and delay and defer and ask for more information and just wait for you to go away. And that's what I'm trying to encourage people to stick with it.
Yeah.
But there's some good stories. I mean, your story is good, and I've heard others that there is no problem, and that should be the issue. Our diagnosis is chronic, progressive, and incurable. And my argument is, hey, what else do you want us to do?
One of the treatments that the doctors speak of is these brain stimulation
Right,
stimulate,
right,
uh, and I've given some thought to that, but I haven't given a whole lot of thought to it.
right, right.
And I'm just wondering, you know, first off, do I really want to have brain surgery?
Yes, that's a thing. I mean, this is a serious thing. I've been introduced to the same concept because Um, I've been on medication now for about 13 years, so I do tend to get some kind of dyskinesias in my shoulders and from time to time. So this topic has come up. I do think it's a risk. It is a major step in our development. And psychologically, when the doctor brought it up, I felt terrible about it because I realized that, hey, we're into the discussion point of a next chapter. And it's the next final chapter because probably as you know, the DBS is the only medical intervention. Um, but I'm not there yet. I've had friends who have been very successful on it, and the good news there is that it resets their whole intake of medication because then they fall back on reducing a lot of their uh, medication, which is good. But I
Yeah,
mean, you're walking around with electrodes in your head and a sort of a pacemaker type charger in your body. It's really serious stuff, you know.
yeah,
Um,
scary,
but sorry.
scary.
It's scary, but one of my friends was a guitarist, and he had really he couldn't play the guitar. He's a professional guitarist, and he had DBS. He's now back playing guitar and feels tremendous. So in that case, it's great. But the the long-term um, efficacy of it is only about 10 years, I believe. So it's a matter of timing. You either in my case, I'm quite happy to maybe deal with the dyskinesias and avoid a major operation. But it was brought up by my doctor because in the Canada's healthcare, it takes about 2 or 3 years to go through the whole assessment and get anywhere close to a final decision. So it is something that I'm thinking about. But if I had a choice, I wouldn't do it at this stage.
That's the way I feel. I'm not as deep into the issue yet as you have been, but
Right.
um, frankly, it's the brain surgery scares the hell out of me.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. But
Larry, tell me in the audience about your new involvement
right.
and the patient advisory board of this new company that Dr. Howard Fetterman has gotten Mark involved in.
Yeah, so I was approached and Ed, I actually must thank you because I think it's through my association with you that you introduced me to Mark. I know that Dr. Fedorov has been on your show. And the three of us are now, well, Mark and I are on the patient advisory board to Kenai Therapeutics. And as you know, Dr. Fedorov is at the leading edge, excuse the pun, but the cutting edge of, therapeutics to implant dopamine producing cells. I mean, it's really quite phenomenal. But what we've been asked to do is to come from a patient advisory, from a lived experience, and offer our feedback. And I think what Dr. Fedorov is doing is he's putting the patient at the center of their development to make sure that we are engaged to provide feedback on how it's going to go through their trials and get ready for a live test and an implantation in a couple of years. So it's really leading edge stuff. To be honest, some of the scientific terms that are come out of Dr. Fedorov's mouth, I don't understand. But I sort of come from it from a lived experience, and just to interpret how that would affect me, what I would do about it. So Mark is the chair. I was appointed the vice chair, and we've had a couple of meetings, and it's exciting stuff. It
Let
really is.
me ask you about I invited Jana Stoudemire from Axiom Space
Right,
to jump in here, but she's tied up. And they're going to, I'm sure you know that they're going to do some of this research in zero gravity.
right, right. Well, I think that's fantastic, but in reality, I'm on the ground, and
Right.
and I
With
and I'm
feet.
living with this day to day. I would
Yeah.
hope that through all of these initiatives, I mean, we must get to a cure, and I know people are working real hard, and having the opportunity to look at Parkinson's at a molecular level in space with zero gravity must have and will have some benefit, to steps to a cure. But, like David and like myself, every day, we put our feet on the ground, we stand up, and it's another day with Parkinson's.
Well,
Uh,
a
you
long
know,
time
that,
ago, a long time
sorry,
ago, I was in the news business, and one of the beats that I regularly covered was space. And,
right,
there was a joke that the joke among the earlier astronauts of the United States was that the greatest achievement of the early space program was edible toothpaste.
right, 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 right. Well, then, I'm hoping that they'll make a joke about Parkinson's in the future.
Well, in the case of me, I'm still relatively new in the journey, two
Right,
2.5 years in. But I think back to the hereditary factors, and was
right,
one of my grandmothers who suffered through Parkinson's in the 50s,
right,
and the treatments in the
right,
50s were primitive,
right, right,
electroshock
right,
and other things. And you think about, we've at least come beyond that, but we've come to the point where it's 18 dopa type pills a day for me.
right, right.
And, frankly, it's a lot of pills that I take
Yeah.
that I don't want to take.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, yes, we've been on levodopa since the 50s, and a lot of researchers in disease modifying medications that haven't made the grade, and the alternative therapies. So, a lot is being done. Um, but hey, I just wake up, exercise, do what I can in the hope that others are doing their part as well.
Well, yeah, it's all you can do. You gotta watch the hands of time move slowly.
Yep, 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 that's right. Yeah.
Guys, thank you very much for
Yeah.
sharing all this personal information for the audience out there. It's
Yeah.
a massive audience over time because
Yeah.
of the distribution and streaming. And we'll make sure that Howard, Dr. Howard and Mark
Yeah.
join us for the next edition.
Yeah, great.
Yeah,
Good to
great.
see you both. Dave, all the best. Look after
Thank
yourself.
you. Thank you, Larry. Good to see you again.
Yeah, take care.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks again.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.